fancy at home. Elevate, go ahead with the Knights. And this matchup, I think, has always delivered, Dev. I mean, I'm sure maybe the stats back it up. I hope that it does. But these two teams truly have been on a bit of a rampage since the start of Stage 1.
Yeah, and look, I put this down as my match of the night coming into today, and we've already had two insane games. So, look, this one is slated to deliver. And like you said, these teams, every time they play, do have a really good game. In fact, the last time these two teams played, it was an 8-7, 15-round match in APAC playoffs. So this should absolutely deliver. Both of these teams on a high right now. And, of course, only one can take the win.
Jeez, that is the most accurate thing I have ever heard in my life. We'll talk about the Knights first here, Mandy. A bit of Oast bias, if you will. This team really started to come together, I'd say midway through 2021. Fell off, I don't want to say significantly at the end of last year, but obviously the new revitalization of the two players that they've brought back in with Stigs, and obviously giving the young gunner Quiz an opportunity has paid dividends massively.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Knights rebuild is really working out for them so far. I kind of say this week in, week out, but I feel like Knights are a team that always set themselves up for success. I think that they always structure themselves so well in terms of leadership, in terms of roles, and they really have some innovative and inventive strategies that we don't see many other teams have at this stage of their rebuild, right? And so the Knights, I always back them in to do well in the long run, to always make that sprint, at the end to get to the finish line and be in that major contention.
Now, they're obviously sitting on 2 points here, Dev, after what was a massive victory against IG last week. So really already kind of kicking off to a great start. Where are we thinking that it goes for the Knights? Are we kind of expecting them to contest top 2?
Look, it is very hard to read because, yes, obviously Knights did beat IG just last week, but Knights also beat IG in Stage 1. And in Stage 1, when they played Elevate, they lost 7-2. So this is going to be a much tougher game today the Knights played last week. I think that they're capable. I think they have stepped up hugely. I think particularly Stigs. He had an insane performance. He even had a clutch as well. So I think that we're going to be looking at players like Stigs, but just the Knights roster as a whole to be looking pushing to that next level, because we've seen that they can be a pretty good team, but they need to push for top 2.
I see 10 players in the lobby. Let's talk about Elevate. Let's get ready. Not often are we really waiting for the players. Well, sorry, the other way around. Mandy, I don't really have, I don't really know what to say about this roster. They have just continued to show, even when we thought they were down and out, that they are the team that we have always put them up on the mantle to be.
Well, I think that's something that we found about Elevate recently, is that they're no longer a team that crutches on particular plays going off and around. They're no longer a team that crutches on hero plays and that type of thing, right? Now with their new rebuild with Mark and Mr. Punch, they have something that's a lot more structured. They have something that is a lot more consistent, and that will get them round wins. That will get them the kind of points that they need to make it to the major. And like we said, in this particular league, even getting overtime losses, even just getting 1, even 2 points is so important in this league. And so consistency is what you need. And I think with the Elevate rebuild, they definitely have that.
Dev, as we look to the vetoes, anywhere in particular that you would hope this match to go?
No, I think that if we go to Bank, I would be backing in the Knights, but it is banned out by Elevate, and so there you go. It ends up Theme Park. Rob, you know why this is super exciting? Is the last time these two teams faced, it was in playoffs, and it was an 8-7 victory for Elevate on Theme Park. A 15-round game. If we get that tonight, we'll be very, very lucky.
I think we'd be lucky, and we'd also be pretty happy, because these two teams, really, when they're firing on all cylinders, there aren't many who can contest them in APAC. I think that that's been proven through and through. Mandy, as we get ready for this matchup, Theme Park, that's pretty much just put the icing on the cake for us. What are you expecting?
I have no idea what to expect. I could flip a coin, honestly, with this one. They're just so evenly matched. But I do really like Knights Theme Park. We've seen it a few times now. It's always very inventive. It's always very unique. I haven't seen it as much from Elevate. I haven't seen that kind of inventiveness and innovation. So I'm always excited for a Knights Theme Park. Elevate, I'm not so sure, but I know that they can take them to it.
Dev, game's ready. Quick prediction.
Look, Elevate need to bounce back after losing last week. So I think that they're going to take it.
Well, that is short and sweet. Finally, we got one out of you, Dev. I love you, mate. Let's go over to the wonderful dynamic duo. It's Guz and Dev. Oh, God. I did.
Hello everyone, I am the creator of the best match tracker in the world, and joining me is the best analyst in the world, Guz. We've got a big game though, Elevate and Knights, continuing what's been obviously a great start to not only the stage, but of course Playday 2 today. So many curveballs have already been thrown our way here for APAC South. This might be the kind of game though where I feel like either team would be a deserved winner, both teams of course fighting for that top 2 position.
Yeah, 7-8 last time they hit the park, and it was theme park of all maps in the playoffs in stage 1. So I think Mandy framed it pretty well. Flip a coin. Let's see who's better on the day.
Let's head over to Theme Park for our third match of this evening for Playday 2 of APAC South. Elevate and the Knights, both of which, of course, have not been able to find all 3 points from their Playday 1 matchups. For Elevate, it was that OT loss. For Knights, it was that OT win. Maybe we go to OT once again for these two teams as we head to Theme Park. Elevate will be on the attack, Knights on the defense as we go into the ban phase.
Well, Thatcher will be taken off the board, and that amplifies the difficulty of the attack quite substantially here on Theme Park. A lot of those key reinforcements can now be a little bit trickier to open up. Probably brings the Mav now into play. Finka followed up by Elevate, interestingly, an operator that they tend to like quite a lot, but very popular in the current meta. Those 2 frag grenades plus the LMG, very powerful on the attack, particularly on entry. Kaid followed up here by Elevate, meaning that maybe that attack won't be quite as tricky, but nonetheless will still be difficult with Thatcher unavailable. Followed up by Azami, so adaptive, very good on basically every map, every single objective if you try run it properly, and Knights just not wanting to deal with that at all.
Yeah, I think Azami's going to end up being one of those operators that finds their way into the ban phase quite often, regardless of the maps, regardless of the teams. Let's head into Theme Park, though, in what could very well be a kind of season-defining match, guys. Remembering, no playoffs, 7 play days, all best of ones, meaning these kind of matches in particular, when you look at 2 big teams of the caliber of Elevate and of the Knights, I don't want to say it's must-win, but it goes a long way. These points against these top teams just hold that little bit more meaning.
Certainly for Elevate as well, they'll be really looking to bounce back from the first play. And not a disaster, they extended it to overtime, so they still captured at least 1 point in that game. But with Wildcard looking red hot at the moment, and Fury as well making a bit of a comeback in stage 2 at the moment, they know that every point is going to be critical. That said, the Elevate last stage show that they can be incredibly resilient. In fact, they lost their first 2 games in stage 1, still qualified for the playoffs, and you know how that story went. So excited to see their development throughout stage 2 and see if they can maybe kickstart that effort a little bit earlier here in the second Playday.
Yeah, lost of course to Renatus in Playday 1, back in stage number 1, and then they lost to the Direwolves in Playday 2. And I think at that point, many would have actually wrote them off for a top 2 position, let alone top 4. But of course, as we know, then they really bounced back. Their only other loss was an OT loss to IG. From there, they won the rest of them. But that was, of course, last stage. And Guz, in particular, that stage was quite spread in terms of the points. And I know we typically see that in APAC South, where the points margins, we'll say maybe minus the top spot and maybe the bottom spot, are usually quite evenly spread. But, you know, who's to say for stage 2 that that will be the case? We just don't know yet. You just don't know until all 7 playdays have been played. You look at so far the start for the Chiefs, 2 losses. Are they going to be thereabouts? So, you know, a lot of question marks already starting to form early on here for stage 2. And for Elevate, when it's already going to be an even competition for APAC South, as it typically is, and only 2 spots available, you really do not want to be playing catch-up. You don't want to be playing from behind, especially when you've even got maybe, say, new contenders for those top spots. The likes of Wildcard, of course, looking very good. Won both of their matches, just took down the Direwolves. Then you've got the improvement from the likes of Fury. The Gladiators, what can they do? Already took down the Chiefs. We'll see them against IG after this game. So an already even competition from stage 1 may actually be even more difficult to navigate. And if you're not finding wins in that, you will find yourselves outside of the top 2, because realistically, anything from 3rd to 8 is basically the same result.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Again, just to reaffirm, the point distribution for SI, which is what all these teams ultimately are fighting for, has also changed. Not only do you get a substantially less amount of points compared to the other regions, even if you finish first or second, but the drop-off from third down to eighth, I mean, you basically get 0 points. As you mentioned, it's basically the same. There's no second prize at all here, really, in APAC North or APAC South. It's top 2 or you're broke. There's no in-between, really. So these teams know just how close and how competitive it is going to be. Obviously, at the moment, though, unfortunately, just a little bit of a pause, just making sure we have everything sorted out before we head into the game. So hopefully it won't be too much longer. But on the other side of the coin, we have the Knights. They finished 4th in Stage 1. They qualified for the playoffs. Unfortunately, though, their run did fall short. Now, they're definitely no team to be overlooked. Last year showed great success, tapered off a little bit, but I think they've been rejuvenated heading into 2022. In particular, the addition of Six coming onto the roster, and also now, more recently, Luna Metal. Previously played for Invictus Gaming. A lot of experience, years of experience in the game. Transferring that across now into a coaching role. We'll see if that can increase the improvement and the development of this roster.
Yeah, and, you know, keeping it on sort of topic here for the Knights, and lo and behold, these two teams, of course, when they played last in Playday 4, not last, obviously at the playoffs, but in the regular stage of APAC South, it was that border game where Knights kind of helped, obviously, the Veto go to border, and they just were not up for it. It was Elevate that utterly dominated them 7-2. It was a no contest, and I think it was at that point of Stage 1 where there were question marks around the Knights. You know, they dropped their second game through the first 4 play days, so a little bit of sort of hit and miss, middle of the pack. Are they contesting? Are they not? Are they going to be able to make it back to the major, of course, qualifying for Mexico, etc.? So I think this is a team that then took that, and then they finished off so strong in the last three play days. Yes, they lost to Direwolves in Playday 7, but every team obviously lost to them. They got some big scalps. Playday 5, they took down Chiefs. Playday 6, they took down IG, and that got them into the top 4. And I think that kind of shows that this team wants it, that they can maybe look down and out, but that they're strong enough mentally that they can actually put themselves in the position to get top 4. And now it's like, okay, well, that's Stage 1. They did the playoffs. Stage 2, moving forward, it's now, can they go that next step and be a contender again, like they've been previously in the past, as we finally get underway here for our 3rd match of the day for APAC South. As I said before, Knights on the defense, Elevate are going to be on the offense as we head into our first round. I think all eyes, though, I mean, usually it's on one team. In this case, it's on both. This is a coin flip, as Mandy said.
Bunk and Daycare for the first objective selected here by the Knights, who are starting on the defensive side. Relatively aggressive lineup here, and again, with the Thatcher off the board, it's going to be an interesting dynamic. Is the defense going to get a little bit more aggressive and extend and potentially make it even more difficult to open up breaches, or maybe play a little bit more reserved and instead lean into that ban and rely on the walls being more tricky to open up? It does look like the Knights are leaning a little bit more towards aggression, extending over to the likes of Initiation, some utility on Cafe, etc., and even players as deep as the top Dragon Stairs. So I'm assuming this will be more so a time bleed for the Knights. The goal here is not necessarily, first and foremost, to find kills. That will just be a nice additional bonus, provided they can waste a couple of minutes here on the clear.
You know, I think for the Knights as well, the more aggressive they are in this match probably will suit them, especially on the defense here, trying to find some opening picks, make it a little bit harder for Elevate to, say, like, get into the building or get towards site, and put the pressure right onto Elevate from the get-go. If you play defensive, you sit on site and allow Elevate to get sort of map control and then eventually site control, I think that they'll be far too strong, especially when they're bringing, say, the Ying. In this particular instance, if DCH is in a good position to throw out those Candelas close to site and then push in, that's going to be trouble for the Knights. So realistically, you really want to be putting the pressure on, say, DCH early on, make it difficult. And force them on the outside, force them on the rappel. That's fine. Mark obviously on the ace with those Salmas looking to open up the wall. That's slow gameplay. I think that's going to benefit the Knights.
Hey, can we go back to Mark Sky for a moment, please? On the ace, the AK-12. I swear he may be running the new skin, potentially, that is dropping very soon. So hopefully he under ADSs in a second. We might get a little bit of a sneak preview of it. Obviously, the pilot program skins dropping soon, so really exciting to see those come through. Oh, there you go. Bit of a sneak peek for everyone. With a minute 30 now left on the clock, and Mark doing a good job establishing these lines of sight, cutting off that hallway. A good line of sight covering the defenders that are looking to get back towards the objective. A couple of trades over towards Arcade. In fact, there's a frost mat to find DCH, and Elevate will be wanting to get that res and get it back to a 4v4.
Yeah, and the first sign of aggression really just sort of paying dividends there for Knights. Juicy getting very aggressive though. I don't know about this play in Cafe. Quiz now following up. You can see Juicy was looking to try and peek outside and then seemingly just maybe over-aggressed in that position, walking into the sight line of that doorway, leaves himself very vulnerable. Sticks, nice little swing, does at least get one, but immediately traded by Mr. Punch. Now makes it a 2 versus 2. So a little sloppy here from both teams. Mr. Punch finds his third in the round and suddenly elevates attack in the end, quite seamlessly flawless. Once the game kind of started and opened up, we saw a couple of those Candelas trying to clear out the balcony position. Elevate just started to really hit their shots and Knights fell away.
Good recovery effort there from Elevate. I like the fact that they adapted and swung over towards Arcade. Obviously, the thruster mat causing a bit of an issue and stalled out the push initially, but the recovery effort, pretty good. And the Knights, I think the aggression dial was probably at the right level until that Cafe play where potentially it just spiraled a little bit. Probably just feeling a bit too much pressure on that side of the map, feeling like they had to initiate a play in hindsight. Maybe could have played a little bit more reserved in the 4 versus 4, but nonetheless, positive signs, I think, for both teams as we rotate over to Throne for the second round.
Yeah, I think you put it perfectly there, right? You want to be looking at what did sort of both teams do well. I think Elevate, one of the biggest things was their ability to honestly just win the gunfight in the mid round after forcing it themselves. They threw out the Candelas, they wanted to clear out those positions, block that shield. It was just the fact that the Knights, sort of to counter that, maybe tried to get a little too aggressive the other way, and that, sort of cost them, especially over towards that Cafe position. But I think the way the Knights set up defensively, held their ground early on, forced Elevate to go a little bit slow up the stairs. We saw the Frostmat come into play. So good signs from both teams early on. The one thing would be, if you are the Knights, of course, to be the team that doesn't really make the mistake too often. In a match like this, you've got two teams that are seriously talented, that don't make too many mistakes, and honestly, that's going to be the difference maker. Whoever makes the more mistakes is going to be the team that loses. I know, shocker, can't believe it either, guys, but I think in this particular instance, when you've got two teams of this caliber, that's definitely going to be a difference maker.
For sure. And again, just to reiterate, the last time these two played was on Theme Park in the playoffs, a 7-8. It went right down to the wire. It quite literally doesn't get any closer than that without unlimited overtime, which we don't see here in APAC South or the APAC playoffs previously. So I think it is going to be a bit of a nail biter. And any team that could potentially get a bit of a lead here might even have the mental edge, build up a bit of momentum and elevate at the moment with that currently on the attack, which should lean itself to be quite tricky. Thatcher unavailable, Theme Park, a lot of util to worry about and a lot of choke points that need to be systematically dealt with, and the Knights continue to aggress and try and make more of these. It's a jump out, but it's a trade from the Claymore. Stiggs a little bit delayed, they're a little bit slow, but Josh and Juicy alongside to assist. Sapper deep, finds one back. A lot of chaos early on in this round. It's already a 2 versus 1, and Quiz all alone in the map.
Yeah, a stark contrast as well to what we saw in that first round, where it was a little bit more of that slow, methodical gameplay. Elevate just sort of opening up walls, pushing positions. In this instance, it was just sort of a let's all just have a free-for-all with, minute 45 seconds remaining. And now, of course, they do get the revive onto Juicy. He's back up, 2 versus 2. And still time as well here for Elevate, and obviously for Sapper DCH. And in terms of the health numbers, well ahead of Juicy and Quiz, because Juicy is so low in health. Does still have 2 nades for Juicy. We'll see if that can have any sort of impact, but yeah, this is an intriguing round compared to what we saw in the last round, and I actually felt like round 1 is probably more so what we were going to be expecting throughout this match, but yeah, this is really heated up quickly here in the second round. Juicy holding very aggressive angle inside of Throne, does have Quiz on the other side, so at the very least should be at least getting a 1-for-1 trade there.
Of course, was able to be revived, a bit of a reprieve there after all that chaos. This window allowing Elevate to get in towards the map, but a lack of hard breach going to make this tricky. Really only 2 points of interest, 2 points of entrance for the attack. And Sapper tries to lean into split, try and get an entry. Quiz, though, monitoring that entry point.
That's a big pick. I mean, Juicy had low health anyway, but to get that headshot, to make it clean and quick. Quiz now, 1 versus 2. Oh, that's an easy kill. Well, not easy. It was a slight angle, not a whole lot of time either, but he spotted him and he had the ping information. Sapper can get the plant. Shows there's a player just outside of TCH with a bit of a pre-fire as well, expecting that swing. Actually had the ping, hence the early shots. And it's a round win there for Elevate as we go into the third round. It's, 9-day difference between round 1, round 2, but it's the same result. Elevate 2-0.
Yes, certainly a lot to divulge. The start of that last round was completely chaotic. The Knights not shying away from jump outs, and shots were landing, but claymores as well were preventing additional damage from being done. But they also didn't back down, the Knights. They continued to aggress and continued to aggress, and it did eventually subside into that 2 versus 2, but Juicy was already low, compromising him late round there, and the timing as well was just a little bit off, as Elevate were able to just sort of wriggle their way in towards the objective and made things hard, especially for Quiz in the 1v2. So once again, positive signs for Elevate, and the Knights taking this as a cue to start switching things up. We head over towards Drug. Now, in the current meta, it's not completely wild to see this being played. However, it isn't probably in the top 3 for many teams, and we're going to have to see something quite innovative here from the Knights themselves.
Yeah. The biggest takeaway for me from the first 2 rounds is that every time there's been some kind of aggression, early game aggression from Elevate, the Knights haven't necessarily looked to, say, parry it. They've actually counterattacked, right? They've gone on the offense themselves and tried to overwhelm Elevate. We saw that in the opening round towards the mid to late round, and obviously early on in the last round. So I'm curious to see if that's going to continue. Is that going to be a theme on the defense here for the Knights? Obviously, already 2 rounds gone, and now into the 3rd. Are they going to continue to look to be aggressive once Elevate sort of make that first push? Do they look to counter push again? Or do they look to go for a little bit of what I would say the Chiefs style, pick, fall back? We're not really seeing that from the Knights here.
This is a long way away from the objective, over on the eastern side of the map, and much like the last round, Stig's cutting down this drone economy from Elevate. And in fact, they only have 6 remaining. At this point in the round, that's okay. Not ideal though, depending on how much information Elevate have actually been able to obtain and action upon. And at the moment, it doesn't look like it's really been all that much.
It feels like right now Elevate is very much dictating the game. We saw it in round 1. When they were slow, the game was slow. Round 2, when they were fast, the game was fast. And again, it's happening here in round 3. I mean, no surprise, of course, they're the attacking team. But the defenders themselves can also dictate the pace of the game if they're going to be, pushing out early positions, trying to get maybe more map control than you would usually desire, going for spawn peaks, etc. I think Knights have definitely looked to get a little bit of map control. They've got rid of a couple of drones, only 6 remaining, and they did a lot of that early on. So look to deny some of that information, holding some off-meta positions. But other than that, Elevate have been very much slow going, relying on the Jackal to clear out these rooms, clear out these areas. Minute and 15 seconds remaining in this particular round. We haven't had a single engagement realistically at all until then and now. Onigiri getting the kill onto Sticks should open things up. Now, in the last 2 rounds gone prior, this has been when the Knights go for that counter punch, but we don't see it straight away until just then. Josh got one. DCH timed nicely though, came in for the counter kill, and then Quiz as well goes for the trade. And lo and behold, like the last 2 rounds, Knights continue to even up the scoreboard, and now they take the lead.
Really sharp from the Knights, not backing down. In fact, doubling down off-site, preventing Elevate from choking out the objective. Now it's Sapper and Mr. Punch. Just make it Mr. Punch. Sage with a double in the 3rd round. Mr. Punch has found 3 so far, but needs to find 3 more to continue the win streak here for Elevate. He elects not to go for the diffuser, instead creeps forward over towards Bathroom, sneaks forward, crouch, trying to find an entry, but that deployable shield, as well as the Sawyer Gate, stand in his way. Elects to go a different route, but at this point in time, time is of the essence, and the 18 seconds remain, and Mr. Punch desperately trying to find a kill, but the Knights are just not giving anything. That has been their mantra on these defensive efforts so far, and it finally pays dividends.
Yeah, really well played by the Knights. 1 versus 3, no time, not a lot really you could expect in that scenario from the solo player of Elevate. So Knights bounce back in the 3rd round. Definitely feel like they needed that round win after 2 opening rounds that were hotly contested, pretty close, pretty even. Knights get on the board. Had it been a 3-0 start for Elevate, I feel like Knights would have felt maybe a little bit unjust from the beginning of this match. But either way, we head to Armory and Throne here for our next round coming up. And I mean, it's 2-1 on the scoreboard. It's very close in these particular rounds, back and forth. Again, same kind of circumstances evolving in this match where it's Elevate that are sort of getting the tempo dictated on their terms, and then they kind of begin things, but Knights counterpunch, and they get aggressive when they do that. Elevate have not really been able to kind of stop that. Elevate's never really been able to get an opening pick and then leave it at that. It's always they're losing someone for it. So that's where the Knights have been very strong on this defense. They're not just losing players for nothing. They've got everyone covered, good positioning, and it's a good sign of their defensive play right now.
Bit of an interesting attacker repick here from Elevate, electing to switch off potential Ying aggressive sort of play instead onto the Montang. That may be in response to a lack of trap utility from the Knights. That said, they still do have 6 impact grenades, make it 5 as Stiggs expends 1. And we saw, probably in that previous game as a good example, Vinny on Wildcard, really getting to work. Those impact grenades, if you place them correctly, land them just to the side so the explosion goes onto the back of the Montang, they can do a lot of damage. In fact, about half HP, maybe even more, depending on if you land it correctly. So that's still going to be a strong counter against this for Elevate, provided the Knights play it well.
Yeah, and I think now into the 4th round, this is where I'm looking to Elevate to see if they can find a cleaner first pick. If they can get a kill without losing one back the other way, that's the next step for them, because it's been 3 rounds now where, and yeah, obviously they're winning certain rounds, obviously, but they just haven't quite been able to have that clean start where they get like a 5 versus 3 advantage and then sort of bring it home from there. Good droning, but Knights have actually been a lot better at taking out these drones pretty freely. I mean, there's only 5 left in this round, 2 minutes. That's been about sort of the average in this game so far. So Knights, again, good positioning off meta, getting rid of these drones, looking to swing angles early. Onigiri takes a big chunk of damage, but he's right behind Quiz, and he's trapped that window, and he knows there's a play on the outside too. He is struggling to try and get out of that spot, makes the cross, but unfortunately, Onigiri goes on the offense, puts the shield away, brings out the pistol. Quiz falls. That was a tough position.
Sure was. Mr. Punch now in on the action, and the Knights struggling in this round and bringing it back. It's going to be a very tall order. In fact, it's flawless for Elevate, and you asked for a response, Jake. There it is.
Well, look, I said a 5-3 start in the round. They go and make it 5-0. But much better, much cleaner in their approach early on. And when you look at sort of the way they got Quiz pinched, I think that's just such a smart play from Onigiri, knowing he is just stuck there at that point, can't run back. And obviously the window in front of him, if you just try and run across. I thought he almost did it. He almost got across where he was able to just kind of spray the window and keep moving. And as soon as he does that, Onigiri, the game sense to understand at that point, he's committed to the switch across the window, pulls out the pistol, finds the kill. So really well played from Elevate. Much better as well in that they just were not losing any players in those trades. Good positioning. Knights, maybe, we didn't really get to see much from the Knights' perspective, to be honest, but maybe a little bit too pushed up. And trying to go for those trades this time didn't work out as it did in a couple of those rounds gone prior. And we have a very early tactical timeout as well.
Yeah, it's certainly a more turbulent play style, and can lean itself into being a little bit more inconsistent for the Knights. If they are continuing to be ultra aggressive on the roam, it's very reliant on being hitting your shots mechanically, but also then having really strong communication skills in the heat of the moment to initiate trades, because you are going to find yourselves in positions where you simply cannot live. You might be able to find one, but you are going to die, and being able to just whittle down that man count in an even fashion is the objective of that, as it also wastes time. Obviously, the last round is an example of where Elevate were able to isolate players, find kills, and there was quite literally no response at all from the defense. So we'll see if the Knights now can just tidy that up. I like the fact that they're using a tactical timeout early. So many teams seemingly don't use their tacticals early, never mind at all. And we'll see if that might just refocus them heading into the final couple of rounds for the half.
Well, I mean, we're obviously big advocates for that. You don't want to leave it to the last second, and it's kind of wasted. You do it early in this instance, 3-1. And honestly, Elevate's been the better team in this first half. By all measures, I think they've been able to be more aggressive, find these earlier picks, get on the front foot more often. Knights have done well in sort of trying to counteract that, get a couple of kills back in the mid-round, not falling back, not losing a player or two and then playing for position, but otherwise going for a bit of a counterpunch, trying to bring it back to like 3v3, and they've done that successfully, but they have not been able to convert that into round wins. And obviously the biggest detriment has been they're losing these players early on. 3v3s are nice, but I feel like it favors the attacker a little bit more than the defender. They've just got a little bit more room to maneuver, roam around. Defenders are generally going to play on site. So I think for the Knights, maybe they should bring the aggression back a little bit. Maybe instead of going for those counter punches, play a little bit more defensive early on, less spawn peak kind of positioning, and more so on site. Try and get an opening pick, make it 5 versus 4, make things difficult for Elevate.
Last time we saw this side, it was actually incredibly close and competitive. The main advantage that Elevate were able to manipulate for themselves and win the round was that rotation over towards Arcade and the trades, particularly on the staircase, but we're really quite strong. So we'll see whether or not the Knights can tidy that up. But an unfortunate start for the Aussies. Onigiri gets the first in this round, back on a fragging roll as He was the part-time Montang previously, but now in more familiar territory. We'll see now if Elevate can hold this lead and actually convert it into a round win.
Yeah, and actually really good overview there. Wonderful observing from the old Sky. You can see kind of the way you do want to be playing that position. Knights have got a good amount of control, but yeah, just you lose Juicy a little early. That's unideal. Stiggs, though, does get a big elimination onto Onigiri, and the biggest thing is not losing any more. He finds that second big turnaround headshot onto Mark, and that is a round differential maker now. 4 versus 3. Knights with the advantage going into the final minute. This is something that they haven't had a whole lot of in this opening half.
Also evaded the nade as well. Perfectly played by Stiggs, who's really finding his feet in this second stage. But can the Knights convert this? Missed the punch off the back of that. Candela pushes in, but it's a strong swing from Sage.
Yeah, and again, that's sort of highlighting the mentality for Knights. Really well played there from Sage, understanding he knows where he is. I swing, I win, and that's ended up being the oh no, Sapper, another frostbat. This one onto Sapper. DCH. Now, last one alive for Elevate, the 1 versus 3. So this looks like it should be a Knights round once again to bring it to 3-2 overall. I think that shield might still be up as well on that balcony. Don't think you're going to get the revival on a Sapper. I don't think Elevate is going to win this particular round.
Wouldn't think so, and there it is. Well done by Sage to get the final pick. The Frostmats a little bit more impactful than they were last time. The recovery effort from Elevate off the back of Stiggs 2K, not quite there. It's a good response from the defense, and the Knights making full use of that tactical timeout.
It's a great response. Again, remembering that last round they lost Juicy pretty early on. No response, so Elevate with the early player advantage, and they just were not able to capitalize. Full credit to Stiggs, though. He made the power play. He made the solo play that I would say got them back into the round. Without that play from Stiggs, even if he falls, if he doesn't find that kill onto Mark and he goes down, I think we probably going to see Elevate win that round. So that is a solo play that finds the round win for the Knights, brings it to 3-2. Going into the final round of this half now, suddenly the Knights in a position where they can even things up, go to 3-3, and continue to sort of write home that this is going to be a close match between these two teams.
Certainly so, and I don't think necessarily we're going to see the trend of Theme Park being overly defender-sided, maybe giving that a little bit too much weight earlier on in the game. Certainly feels like it's a seesaw battle between the two. We saw it last time with the 8-7 victory to Elevate in the Stage 1 playoffs, and at the moment it feels like it's almost mirroring that at the moment. Incredibly close. Now the map's not playing out identically. We are seeing a couple of new things here or there, and I'm really, in fact, liking a lot of the proactive defense we're seeing from the Knights at the moment. It's been a mixed bag of results though. I think when it's working and they're switched on and they're hitting the shots required, it's working incredibly well, and Elevate struggle to find themselves back into rounds. But if they let it slip, if maybe one engagement or even two don't quite go their way, it's almost on the other side, right? They're finding it very difficult to then recover and find win conditions themselves. So it's a very volatile game state we're in at the moment, and it starts right off the bat. Even the first minute of the round is sometimes dictating the end result, where it be maybe one engagement or potentially some map control not going one way or the other.
But we've both seen a lot of Knights in recent times, and one thing that I think has always been a detriment for them is sometimes they can look a little bit lackluster, almost a lack of care. They look like they're caring a lot in this game. They are putting in a lot of effort for their positioning, in also trying to counteract the way that Elevate are trying to play. I think the Knights have actually played this really well so far, probably even deserve a 3-3 half if they can find the results in this 6th round. But that doesn't take anything away from Elevate, who I also think have played quite control when they want to, and also played aggressive when they want to. So the game probably feels like it's being played on their terms, and that's where I think the Knights have done a good job, that even though maybe not everything is going the way they would like, they're still getting a lot of the way that they want to play as well in this particular game. So again, right home the fact, very, very close game between two teams that I probably put on the same level at the moment here for APAC South, Elevate and Knight. I mean, if you had a sort of power rankings, they would be right next to each other.
Well, we hyped up the pace of this map and the prevalence of extensions from the defense, but it has been just quiet across Theme Park so far in the 6th round. Not much happening at the moment. I can only assume Elevate, DCH, the Jackal has already used a couple of those Inox scanners trying to desperately find information. And Elevate do have some control above, a bit of vert is being established. So that's at least one tick, but a 5-5 trade on Throne, that's a tall order, especially with so many players still offside.
But remembering as well, as DCH pushes in, gets the elimination onto Josh, and Onigiri does fall. I was about to say that with Elevate playing a little bit slower, it does maybe put some mind games for Knights, who are basically expecting at any minute for them to rush in and find a couple of kills, so Knights maybe get a little bit antsy. Mark catches Sage on the backside there. He didn't quite anticipate from that angle, and now with under 30 seconds remaining, 4 versus 3, it's Elevate that have the advantage.
Yellow wall about to be opened up as well, so Quiz under pressure. He needs to step up. Only 1 kill so far, but it's Stigs again with a big pick.
Oh, and Quiz too has an opportunity on Mark, who also finds another big pick. Mark has come up big too. Mark and Stigs finding some very crucial kills. Not many of them, but crucial nonetheless. Smoke goes out. Stigs trying to just spray into the smoke. Has the ping as well. Doesn't shoot straight away. Doesn't want to give away his position. Now goes for it in the last second to deny Stigs with the big brain play. He waited perfectly and patiently. It's a 3-3 half. Stigs definitely the MVP from that half.
Might have to trademark the word patiently. Not a bad little mix there.
It's not too bad. I'll take it.
No, but honestly, what a play. I got really nervous when the initial spray there from Stigs didn't quite land. I thought, oh no, he might butcher this. Oh no, they might not have information. But no, he stayed cool, calm, and collected, dropped to the deck to prevent himself from getting shot, then popped up. I'm sure he's probably counting in his head or someone on the team the 7-second ticker for how long it gets or how long it takes to get that diffuser stuck. They knew it was so late in the round that if they could time it to absolute perfection, it would secure it right there and then. That's exactly what Stigs did. That's 2 huge rounds from him in the first half that we even saw. He got 6 kills total, of course. And that has kept the Knights in this. 3-3 the scoreline. So close at the moment. This is going to be another epic match.
Well, it's not about sort of the totality of the kills, right? Sometimes you can have a player go and get 17 kills and look like Vincere. And yes, he obviously was amazing. But other times you can see what the impact of, say, 3 kills can do. We saw 2, of course, earlier from Stigs, and then that one there at the end. And I would imagine those 3 kills essentially got Knights 2-round wins. That's only from 3 kills, though, whereas another player can go and get, like, 2 big 4Ks and have 8 kills to get sort of the same kind of result. So it's not always about the amount that you get, but the impact of that. We saw a couple of big kills as well from Mark in that opening half. So right now, though, obviously, for the Knights, they can't keep relying on Stigs to make these big clutch plays, because I think he's basically won them 2 rounds single-handedly. That's not to take anything away from, the rest of his teammates, but he's just made those really big clutch plays, or at least been in that position to do so from the rest of his teammates. So 3-3. And we do see Josh actually on the Maru, so do look to maybe keep an eye on that one and see if the Knights have something sort of funky up their sleeve here for the start of the second half. But they are well and truly in this match, guys, and we are kind of getting the result we expected so far.
Definitely agree. Not sure how much of an impact Amaru is necessarily going to have on this bottom side, but might help in getting control above. Mark, as you mentioned, has been quite impactful this match. The scoreline deceives us. The opening pick here in the 7th round, and Knights already now playing catch-up with 2 minutes to go. That's also the sledge taken care of.
And it's so intriguing too, because we never really saw Knights getting opening picks on their defense. Not only do Elevate find it in the first round of the second half, but they also get away with it. There's no trade from the Knights. So we're actually seeing a circumstance here where the defending team has a 1-player advantage, and the attacking team now has to obviously clear out more of these positions still. We're still got a minute and a half, and they're down a player early on. Cannot put a foot wrong. So we'll see if Knights are going to be able to sort of navigate this. This is a great start to the second half for Elevate. Stigs! Big nade onto Mark. 4 versus 4. Take back everything I just said. It's even Steven with 1:15. Knights back in this round, courtesy of Stigs.
Doesn't even need a gun. The grenade will do. And now Elevate potentially with a bit of pressure, but Sapper stabilizes it for the defense. Hardbreach still available. Juicy and Stigs could get to work, but there's not a lot of time remaining. They'll need to make sure that this is incredibly efficient, and the drone economy lacking as well. I think Juicy will maybe try and open up Throne, but you can see the mute jammers are making it that tricky. There's not many win conditions for the Knights from this position. Elevate should be taking this one home.
Yeah, their win condition now is literally just make big brain plays, hit shots that you probably don't expect to hit on the regular, and especially now losing that third play, now 4 versus 2, you're kind of putting all of your hope once again onto the sort of shoulders of Stiggs with a bit of help from Juicy, still on the thermite with the diffuser in hand. Stiggs, that is a very, very difficult angle, but on it, Geary. Sharp shot, turnaround, headshot onto Stiggs, shuts him down and shuts the round down. Elevate get a much-needed round win, guys, because it looked like the Knights had started to find some momentum heading into the second half. That momentum, though, well and truly halted. Elevate take the first round of the second half.
A good start from Elevate in that previous round, getting the opening pick. The response from Stiggs was great, but it then faltered. Elevate able to find a bit of a delayed trade there. They had the advantage in the late round, and they had the utility on the hard breached wall, on the reinforced walls rather, to just stall out that attack a little bit and just diminish the chances of the Knights being able to turn it around. Keeps things again super close, super competitive. Intrigued to see where Elevate may rotate for this next defensive effort, and it is over towards Lab. So we saw the Knights attempt this, an aggressive roam. In fact, I don't think there was much action on the site really at all, except for potentially even that final kill or that final engagement. So expect similar here from Elevate.
Great game thus far, though. 4-3 scoreline through the first 7 rounds. Back and forth nature, well and truly, has been on the mark. So both of these two teams definitely living up to the game so far, which is always great. Sometimes you get these kind of matches and you know, like hype it up and say it's going to be close, and both teams are sort of top contenders, and then one of them just blows out the other. But I think right now both teams should be feeling pretty happy with the way that they're playing their Siege, and also against each other. Two top teams that, you know, I'm going to be honest, when it's all said and done, I think both of these two teams are good enough, qualified enough to be our top 2 teams that go to the major from APAC South. Will that be the case? I mean, I don't know. Obviously, we've got a long, long way to go. We're only in Playday 2 of 7, but definitely at their best. And if they can maybe even get better, 2 big contenders. Stiggs looking great. And on the Sens as well, guys, who we were chatting in the green room earlier, a little while ago, and you said we weren't going to see this. The ROU goes out, and it's also Juicy pushing in on the flash. This is an aggressive play from the Knights. DCH, though, with the Nitro Assault, finds Josh. And I think now the Knights, this attack is going to have to be stalled out momentarily. They need to get Sage back up.
They tried to go for the pocket play. They wanted to completely avoid the roam, instead hit site direct. That res might recover the round for them. Juicy able to go deep in towards storage, but taken low on the entry, and this has not quite worked out how Knights anticipated. That said, another RU in the pocket of Stiggs, but that one gets caught by the one-line magnet. So many counters to this new device. It's so difficult to see Sens finding themselves into this meta, and Elevate just playing patiently, not giving away anything for free, knowing they are on the front foot here.
Well, the ball is going to still be up, though. Mark finding the kill onto Sage. So now 2-player advantage for Elevate. Playing this really well off-site and not really giving Knights room to sort of breathe. Quiz now over towards Cafe. And he find anything. He's got 2 players essentially looking at his position. And while Stiggs was able to find a kill, it didn't matter. The rest of his teammates had fallen rather rapidly. It's Elevate who find 2 rounds in a row to the good to start this second half. Looking pretty good at the moment on the defense. And for the Knights, I don't hate the tactic, guys. They are a team that likes to bring out the odd little rush. We see it from them probably more than any of the other OCE teams at times. We've seen Amaru be you know, a pick that they like to play and play off of that blitz as well. So it's not too unexpected to see the Knights go for that. They don't do it twice, though. It's usually a one and done.
Yeah, unfortunately, just due to a bit of awkward timing, didn't really get a chance to sort of preemptively call that rush. Obviously very deliberate and very well thought out. In fact, I really like the use of those ROU, the sense light walls, through drone holes as well. Quite innovative there to facilitate the entry onto the blitz. And the ultimate objective of that play through bathroom into storage is to completely just prevent the roam from being an impact and then forcing Elevate to rotate back towards site. Unfortunately, though, it just collapsed a little bit too much, a little bit too early, and Knights didn't quite have the manpower to really force themselves onto site and force that rotation, and Elevate played into that very, very well. So credit to them on the defense. Obviously, credit goes as well to Knights. Just trying something a little bit new. Doesn't pay off, though. And now with a 2-round disadvantage and Elevate teetering on the edge of this match point, things are starting to get very, very nerve-wracking for them.
I'd just like to point out for yourself, guys, and this is a bit of a personal one. Manic did go for Elevate, you went for Knights, so that early prediction lead is going to be massive for our 5-head host. unless the Knights bring it back here. Down just the 2 rounds, which they've already done before, of course, to start this game. Elevate did get out to a 2-0 start, and then the Knights really got going from there and obviously closed out the first half in good fashion to bring it back to 3-3. They will need to do something similar, though, here in the second half of the second half, going into the 9th round. Now 2 rounds below Elevate, who are, of course, now 1 round away from securing an OT point at minimum. So pressure well and truly on the Knights, especially if they want all 3 of the points, which, you know, goes back to sort of really the entire season as a whole. You need every point that you can get. Obviously, you'll take 2 in this situation, I think, if you're the Knights, but they can find a way to get all 3 and win 4 rounds in a row. It'll be massive for their season aspirations.
Stigs with the Talon Shield on the Osa. Standing guard inside of Cafe and holding down that box peak. Little heady around the corner. He has the diffuser in hand, so we'll probably keep an eye on Stigs later on in this round when they look to execute. Elsewhere, some lurks on the eastern side of the map. And Quiz will be desperately looking for an impact. Only 1 kill so far in this match. Probably fair to say that his initiation into the team has been a little bit rocky. Quiz has so much potential. We know he's a great player, but he just hasn't quite found his mojo just yet on this roster. Never mind on this map.
Oh.
Sage, an awkward engagement on yellow, but it's Quiz to capitalize. Well played there by the Knights, but he wants more. Goes deep. The timing, it's awful, and he loses that fight.
Yeah, tough one. Didn't fully check, and obviously saw the barrel of the gun, and I think at the last second realized what had taken place. Sage, though, good shot onto Mark, and a couple of kills now for Sage in this particular round. Has him on 9 in total. 49 seconds remaining. Knights have the advantage, 3 versus 2, and they need to convert this particular round. You've got the extra player. Bit of information, though, for Elevate. Yellow ping goes out. Mr. Punch holds his position inside of Daycare. DCH, full health, headshot as well. Well, he just found 2 kills. We spot the final kill, though, through the eyes of Mr. Punch. In the blink of an eye, Elevate win the round from being down a player.
Match point as well now for Elevate. That's a big round. Big implications. That's 1 more point towards the standings. And the Knights have fallen flat here on these attacks. They just don't quite have it in them, whereas Elevate have stepped it up to the next level. Some big plays, and now we go over towards Armory and Throne to try and convert. Last time we saw this site, quite successful for Elevate. They'll seek comfort on this rotation back. And a match that felt so close for so long has really slipped out of the grasp of the Knights. From this position, obviously, they still can recover in overtime, but it's very tricky to see them bringing back any of the sites they've lost so far.
So 3-round advantage now for Elevate. Match points secured. I'm fully in agreement with you guys. It's difficult to see sort of the light at the end of the tunnel here for the Knights to bring it back to overtime. Certainly doable. Remembering, though, of course, the tactical timeout had already been called. That was early on when they were down 3-1. And now, well, they are sort of in a similar predicament once again. This time now down 3 rounds to the good. Elevate with their biggest lead of this particular match. And I must say, considering the start that we had, when you go back to the first half, it was a 3-3 scoreline. What a turnaround here on the defense from Elevate on Theme Park. It's been tremendous to watch them sort of at work, but the Knights have just not been able to go with them. When we saw sort of Elevate the first half, guys, I was saying things like they were dictating the tempo, they were setting the pace. I haven't felt that from the Knights on their attack. I haven't felt that, besides the push into Drug, where they were obviously looking for that, you know, blitz ROU play. That was the only round where I felt like the Knights wanted to do something, did it. Now, did it work out well? No, but they at least went to do it. Every other round has been slow. Elevate are looking like they're getting all of the opening picks. How many times have we seen sort of like 5v4s, for example, things we weren't seeing in the first half for the Knights on their defense. So it has, I guess, as the game has gone on, continued to go in the favor of Elevate, and I'd say this scoreline very much is just.
Well, it was certainly a very aggressive and deliberate play from Sage, but it doesn't quite land the mark. And that's kind of been the storyline here for the Knights on these attacks. I feel like sometimes they are trying to execute pretty inventive and creative plays, but they're just falling short by the smallest of margins. Good response there from the impact grenades onto Juicy. The exothermic has now been wasted. He still has one in the pocket. Elsewhere, Josh on the Nook lurk does find DCH. So Knights now, they've tied up the early round. They've found that first pick. They now have the advantage.
They did lose that exothermic charge, but you've also got the Maverick anyway, and one more in the back pocket for Juicy, plus a bit of time. Still 90 seconds remaining in the round. And yeah, Josh finding that opening pick does just now settle things down for the Knights. They got that advantage, but I'm not going to lie, a couple of times in the second half, they've been up numbers-wise. We've seen it. You know, 3v2s and 4v3s and now 5v4s, and Elevate have always been able to bring it back regardless. They've won 3 rounds now to start this second half. They don't look like slowing down, and even though they're down a player, you still almost back them in. Ball finally going to be opened up. Sage watching now inside towards site. Still 60 seconds left, but it's at this time where Elevate usually start firing. They did lose one more, but they found 2 for it. Now 3 versus 3 on a Gary pop-up headshot onto Juicy. Sits him down, diffuser on the ground. Now all up to Stiggs and Josh.
It's in this phase of the round where the Knights continue to crumble and Elevate, step up, find these plays, get aggressive, swing wide, find picks, and close out rounds. Now Stiggs in the 1v3.
And that's going to settle it. Stiggs, by far and away the best player for Knights in this match, has done some great things and will need to do some miraculous things now in 1 versus 3. Under 30 seconds remaining. Doesn't have time, doesn't have position, doesn't have the diffuser. There's a lot of things he doesn't have. Does he have a chance? Absolutely no way. Mark puts an end to it. It's a massive win for Elevate for Playday 2 of APAC South. They get all 3 points against a fellow contender. And in the end, guys, they do it rather seamlessly.
It was so close at the switch of halves. 3-3, the scoreline even Stevens, but Elevate on the defense took it to a whole nother level, shutting out these attacks one after another. Deserved winners in this game and a big bolster for their chances at the top 2.
7-3 scoreline in the end is very much just. And there's a lot of times we see those kind of scoreline guys and we would probably sit back and say, oh, maybe it was closer to sort of 7-4, 7-5, but no, it was very one-sided in that second half. By all means, it was an Elevate romp in the end. Yes, first half was close. Yes, it was good. I thought we saw some good things from the Knights. They were able to sort of bring it back when maybe it looked like Elevate were just going to run away with things early on. They dug deep. They had that early tech timeout. So there were some good things there from the Knights, but to sort of bow out in that second half, probably not ideal for them.
Yeah, incredibly disappointing when you consider that in the first half it was so close and the Knights were continuing to, I think, develop their defense throughout that first half in such a way that it was countering Elevate quite nicely. Unfortunately, they didn't quite get that traction. I think in the second half it proved very, very costly. And I mean, in classic APAC South fashion, that's only going to tighten up the standings even more.
Certainly is. We'll go back to the desk and they can break it all down.